back now, what was I thinking?
Not often the Ospreys lose at home.
I was trying to prove myself and earn the respect of the nation. One of my heroes, same age as me, Scott Gibbs, he's our first captain.
But yet you're still behind on the scoreboard.
Knee joint, so my cruciate was damaged, my cartilage, but significantly my kneecap split into 3. As a coach, all you want from your players is somebody to do their job. These animals they're different.
Welcome back to episode 6 of the Davis Beer podcast. I'm joined today by no other than Sean Holley. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Elliot. Nice
Everything
to
okay with you?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to Christmas. Well, getting it out of the way, actually.
Moving into the new year. So, just start us off. Give us a basic rundown on your earlier career or your early life. Where did you start? And yeah, give us a bit of background on Sean Holley.
Well, sort of humble beginnings, really. I'm a Port Talbot boy. I was born in Neath Hospital in 1970, and my parents, my dad was a steel worker. My mum worked for a company within the steelworks called Metalmend as a personal assistant, and had a real happy family life. Got a younger brother, Gavin. But I guess it was based around sport. My dad was a footballer. He went to Leeds United as an apprentice as a 15-year-old. He didn't make it, but he was apparently a very good footballer. On my mother's side, both her cousins were top sportsmen. Alan Rees played for Wales in 1962 as an outside half. He was a specialist, 12th man cover point fielder for England, and opened the batting for Glamorgan. He went north to rugby league with Leeds. And then my other uncle, Keith Barnes, ended up being captain of Australia Rugby League in the 1950s and 60s. So yeah, so there was a legacy there, and I just loved sport. I was that sort of kid that watched cricket test matches and drew a boundary and then marked off lines of every run. I watched every moment of the 1984 Summer Olympics in LA. I was out in the garage, messing around. I'd create my own sort of golf thing with a little plastic golf ball on fishing line and then hit it so it would come back to me. I was that sort of guy. If in the summer holidays I'd create this sort of street Olympics. I was destined to be involved in some form of sport. But football and cricket and rugby were the triumvirate really through school ages. I was a big footballer. I was on schoolboy forms at Cardiff City. I thought I was going to be a footballer. Boys clubs of Wales sort of stuff, and cricket I captained Wales at under-16s and with Robert Croft, David Hemp and the likes, and I thought maybe then be cricket, but my real passion was rugby. My PE teacher in school was the late John Bevan, who had played for Wales, the Lions. He was coach of Wales at the time. Massive influence on me and my friends. So I was just in love with rugby, and ironically of the 3 sports I was probably the worst at was rugby. I was probably a better footballer than cricketer than rugby player, but it was my passion. So that's all I wanted to do. So I ended up really going to a sports university. I went to Loughborough University to study sports science after a year in Australia where my uncle Keith was, and just fell in love with sport and was destined to have a career in it, really.
And that's where you were not first introduced, but that's where you picked up your love for rugby and took it from there. So
yeah, I think being around Wales, living in Wales, that area where I am, Aberafan is my home club. I played for Maesteg first class rugby first of all. You were sort of becoming ingrained in it. Your mates played, and you played in school. You had to play in school. I was in different comp, so you couldn't really play football or anything else. There wasn't much choice then. For example, you couldn't go to CrossFit or mountain biking or anything like that. It was literally rugby in the winter and cricket or athletics in the summer. So yeah, he was sort of destined to be involved in it, whether you liked it or not. But I did want to be a professional rugby player. Not there was professional rugby back then. I wanted to be an elite sports person. And I think, going to Australia was very significant. You saw standards. I played for Ranwick in cricket. I was captain of Wales with Glamorgan coach as a late teenager. I went out to Sydney, joined Ranwick Cricket Club, and the first selection week I was in the 4th grade. And I went there thinking I was the kiddie, and it sort of brought you right back down to earth with a bump. And then same in rugby, I started off in the 2nd grade for a team called Uni in New South Wales, and then you're up against some Islanders. First time I'd really come across playing against Islanders. I'm sort of 18, 19. But then going to Loughborough, again, you know, in my class, you had Steve Smith, who ended up an Olympic silver medalist high jump. Mark Richardson, who ended up a 4x400 metre gold medalist in the Olympics. You know, people like Mark Mapletoft, Tony Diprose, Ben Ryan ended up coaching Fiji to win the Olympic gold in the sevens.
Yeah, of course.
Every other person was destined to be this international star, you know. And there's me, Sean from Carmarthen, Port Talbot, you know.
You haven't had a bad career either, this one.
But it sort of went from there, really.
Yeah. And was there a crossover with the cricket and the rugby, or was there a moment in time where you had to make a decision, one or the other?
Yeah, it was actually with football and rugby. I found myself, because I got into this sort of Wales schoolboys Glamorgan setup, I was going to cricket nets in the winter on a Sunday night, 6 till 9, with the great Alan Jones and Tom Cartwright in Neath. Now, if you think, we used to play our school rugby on Saturday mornings. I'd play soccer for Avon Lido on a Saturday afternoon, or potentially youth rugby, depending what it was. And then Sunday morning, I'd play soccer again for Avon Lido or Avon Neath schools or West Glamorgan or whatever it was. And then I'd go to cricket nets on a Sunday night, 6 till 9. And that's where my interest really started to wane a little bit with that. And so, you know, football and rugby were really taking over. And I guess then I sort of made that decision. As soon as I went to Australia and came back to Loughborough, it was just going to be rugby. And I enjoyed even then back in 1990, 91, I enjoyed the living like a professional sports person, because at Loughborough you were expected to be elite because of the reputation. I got into the first team, which was everything to a Loughborough student. You know, to play in the UAU first team, you were idolised, you know. So I used to enjoy Wednesday nights when the netball team and swimming team would come back, because you were put on a pedestal, but you had to stay there. You had to train and behave and live like that. So as much as you were still a student, it was quite elitist, and that sort of got my juices flowing, if you like, you know.
And your playing career then, how did your playing career pan out from there?
Well, again, there's a bit of a crossroads, because at Loughborough, you sort of get drawn to some attention. Back then in 91 to 94, I was out of sight, out of mind. If you went to Cardiff Met, as it is now, or Swansea Uni, sort of the first class clubs were looking at you. I was out of sight, out of mind. But the English clubs showed an interest. I played for Rugby Lions in the old Courage League 1. And then we won the Leicestershire County Cup in 94. And one of our coaches was the head coach of Nottingham, and also Cambridge University. So he offered me the chance to go and play for Nottingham and study, I think it was land economy, to become a Cambridge Blue. That decision I'm not so sure. You should never regret anything, Elliot. But what I know now in life and business is, if you're a Blue at Oxford or Cambridge, it opens a few doors.
I can imagine.
But my long time standing girlfriend, I'd come home from university, and I chose to go home, and I think it was a good decision in the end, because we ended up getting married, having 3 wonderful kids. So
all happens for a reason.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously you're known probably better for your coaching career. Obviously we'll forward a little bit to that. So when did you stop playing? When did your playing career kind of end, and when did it go into coaching?
Again, you say happens for a reason. I do some talks called the bang, bang, bang theory. And the first real bang was, I'm heading, I was never good enough, Elliot, to play international rugby or a long first-class career. But I could have had, a decent semi-pro career. But I was playing for Aberafan, my home club. I'd always wanted to play for them. And in 94, I don't remember too much about it, actually. It was the 22nd of November, 1994. It was 7:15. At the Talbot Athletic Ground. There's about 2,500 people there. So I do remember a lot.
Sounds like you remember it quite well.
We were playing against South Africa. We were over on tour at the end of apartheid.
Yeah.
In a midweek tour match. And nothing on it really. But bang, that's when the first bang happened. I collided with a couple of Springboks. I did my knee joint, so my cruciate was damaged, my cartilage, but significantly, my kneecap split into 3.
Wow.
And that really put paid to to any aspirations I had, because the game wasn't quite professional. I spent 18 months convalescing, 3 operations. They put screws in my kneecap. They took a bone graft from my hip and took them out and put a bolt in and all of that. That took 18 months. And of course, the game in that time had gone professional. My rehab wasn't ultra professional. I was working in a college cigar in Llanelli, lecturing. And so my time had come, really. I tried to get back, but I've never really recovered from it. In fact, I'm probably going to need a new kneecap soon. But again, everything for a reason. That took me to coaching. I was coaching an under-18 team at the college. And it sort of went from there. I did my coaching badges with the WRU. They liked what they saw, a young coach. I was delivering on some coaching courses. They made me the Welsh students coach within no time. But there were good talent coming through my hands. Adam Jones, the prop. He was coming through as a 16-year-old. I got to coach regional under-19s, David, as it was then, Dwayne Peel, Barry Davis, these sort of players. So I was dealing with elite performers. Then I coached the Wales under-16s, then Wales 7s. So things started to grow.
Quickly, yeah.
I wrote a first and only of its kind course called Rugby Studies. It's when I first learned about business, actually. I wrote this course. Graham Henry came down and Phil Bennett, and wow, this is great. We launched it. It went across 80 institutions in the UK. I never wrote a textbook. I never copyrighted it or patented anything. So I lost the rights to all that. But what it did do, it afforded me the opportunity to get a job at Hartpury College. I was the first director of Hartpury College there, and that's another story. That took me off on a different tangent.
Yeah, exactly. What was the first? So you talked about, obviously, climbing the ladder in coaching and things like that. So did you always have a passion for coaching over playing? Was there something in you think where you thought, yeah, I could teach a younger crop of rugby players? Or
I think I was always like the school captain.
Yeah,
I was head boy. Then even when I went to Loughborough, I was coaching the under-21s and the ladies team. It was ulterior motive for that, obviously, but being a student. And yeah, I suppose even through cricket, they got us as young players to go through some coaching qualifications, but I ended up coaching kids on a Sunday, earning a few quid. So yeah, I guess so. You know what it's like when you come to Christmas time and you're organising the Christmas do for your mates, and you were the one organising it. Your cricket club has as a gentleman's dinner. You organise it. You end up emceeing it as a youngster. I think you have these innate leadership qualities that I was never short of communication skills. I'm obviously quite confident and unafraid to put yourself in positions.
Yeah,
yes, I've been ambitious. Yes, I've had leadership skills, but I've never been afraid to give things a go. And where that's come from, I don't know. But I took to it like a duck to water and worked hard at it. Because I thought to myself, if I'm going to coach at any level, I'm going to have to be real. I'm going to have to be convincing. I'm going to have to earn respect because I'm not an international rugby player or whatever. I'm young. If I'm going to climb the ladder quickly. And I did that. I tested myself at Hartpury. It was a great project. I became the Gloucester under-21s coach. So you had all these West Country guys looking at me stupid. Like, who's this young Welsh guy I've never heard of?
What's he saying?
Yeah. And again, we grew that, and it's one of the biggest and best sporting rugby institutions in the land now. And I'm really proud of that sort of 3.5, 4 years, because we developed it quickly. And you just look at the people, even the Welsh guys that have come through Hartpury since. I'm really proud. That's probably one of the most important things I've done, really. And that springboarded me into the limelight with the Welsh coaches, because at the time, Steve Hansen, Scott Johnson were coaching Wales, and I was going back and forth coaching the 21s, the students, that sort of thing. Scott Johnson had me in doing skill sessions with the Welsh team. So imagine that, I'm 30, 31, doing some analysis for him, and I'm involved, I'm learning. And I'll never forget it. I was on my mate's stag weekend in Magaluf, and phones back then were the little Nokia things that you never took out. They were just like a novelty. We got back from a night out. I'd had 34 missed calls from Steve Hansen.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wow. I was fumbling around voicemail, and they said something like, mate, it's easier to get hold of Osama bin Laden than you, mate, he said.
Obviously didn't know where you were.
Ring me in the morning, yeah. Yeah, so I rang him. He said, when you're back, said tomorrow, get down to the Neath Rugby Club. I want you to meet Mike Cuddy and Lynn Jones. I want you to coach the Ospreys. And it was the Neath Swansea Ospreys. And I did. I drove down on a Monday night and had the meeting with Lynn and Mike, which is an unforgettable experience. We were in the Neath Rugby Club. And you'd think you'd be in a private room, wouldn't you? But no, there was a guy playing pool behind you. There was a guy playing darts. Jukebox was on, you know. And they tried to make me a little uneasy.
Yeah.
And on the way back, as I drove back, Lynn rang me and offered me the job.
Wow.
Rest is history as well.
Yeah, exactly. And how long did you spend at the Ospreys?
9 years.
9 years.
9
Wow.
long years, yeah.
So won a lot of things and won a lot of games.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, no, it was special times. It was difficult to start with, bringing Neath and Swansea together. But because I was 32, I was reveling in it. I was loving it. I was like a sponge. I learned a lot from Lynn Jones. And all of a sudden thrust into dealing with international players.
yeah. How did you find that early days?
Tough.
Was it really tough? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one of my heroes, same age as me, Scott Gibbs, he's our first captain. So all of a sudden I'm coaching him. So I had to quickly learn, how do I earn the respect of these players? And I learned quickly that you give of your time, you help them, you don't assume that they know everything and they don't want to do extras or get better. The best players just want to get better and better. And I remember spending that first summer, every session working on Scott's left-hand pass. It's unbelievable, isn't it? You know, a lion of his stature. And I asked him, I said, you know, he said, my left-hand pass, he said, if I'm going to play 12 this year, I'm going to need that miss 2, I'm going to need that, right? So I devised a load of little things and stuff, and I would give of a time, half an hour after every session, and he'd love it, you know. And I realised then that these animals they're different, you know. So that's what I did, you know. Treated them like normal people, give your time, help them as much as you could, and earn their respect. And that was a decent model for me in the early years. But also supporting Lynn, understanding his strengths, which were clearly on the field, his knowledge of the game. But then maybe off the field, I was good at systems, planning sessions, you know, putting things in place, you know, tactical analysis off the field to support it. So I learned quickly not to undermine him or do what he was doing, to support him as much as he needed me as a number 2. And it sort of paid off. We won our first title in the second year, regional rugby, and then 3 years later, our second title. So we were going places, you know, quickly.
I was going to say, did it happen quite fast as well? Things like that, you know, you win something big like that as well. Did it give you a big boost, a lot of confidence into, you know, going into the next few years?
We had a leg up, El, if I'm honest. We built a squad early on that probably wasn't quite good enough. And then the sad demise of the Celtic Warriors meant that there was this sort of, it was awful. It was like an auction for the players of Celtic Warriors. It was dreadful. But we were lucky, and so we acquired Sonny Parker, who was like a racehorse for me as an outside centre. I was like, oh, yes, I want him, you know.
Here we go, yeah. 2
Bishop boys, David and Andrew, good, hard, Treorchy boys. Again, Richard Mustoe, a winger. Brent Cobain added big steel in the second row. He was a current Wales international. But the catalyst was Ryan Jones. Everybody wanted Ryan Jones. We got him. He was a young number 8, destined to be, you know, an international star. We got him. And those guys in particular, I'm trying to think if there's any others, give us that boom, just give us that little boof, you know, and then we were able to recruit 1 or 2 other overseas players that complemented. Jason Spice and Philo Tiatia were 2 that enhanced our culture.
Yeah.
And then once you get 1 title, you understand the recipe. As long as you keep moving, and then the second title, now all of a sudden people are looking around, and then you're able to sign better players.
Names, yeah.
People all of a sudden want to come to you, you know? And then in that time, whereas before you're used to going to Munster and losing, you then start going there and getting a losing bonus point. Then you start beating them at home. Then you start beating them away. And all of a sudden the confidence goes bang up there. And you build your squad around that. And all of a sudden you keep an eye on the academy. You make sure you got youngsters coming through. You fuel the community game around you, the Premiership as it was for us, by putting players back. And you've got a recipe that's working, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And some of those players that you named are, well, the players that you think of now when you think of the Ospreys. So they're players that were there for a long time. Is there anyone else that kind of stuck out? One person I'm going to ask you about is Gav, because there's been a few people that have asked me, was he as good as everyone kind of painted him, and what were his qualities, and perhaps what were some of his maybe downfalls and things like that.
Well, I'll get to Gab, but firstly, what people forget, because they call us the Galacticos, a lot of those players were in that first squad, and with Neath and Swansea originally, Adam Jones, Duncan Jones, Paul James, Hugh Bennett, Jonathan Thomas, you rattle them off, they became household names, but at the time, they were young players, so we like to think that we helped nurture them, right up to the point that Warren Gatland came in. And then he picked 13 Ospreys in his first game for a reason. And they went on and became Galacticos. They went on to become superstars. Shane was always destined to be a superstar, as was Golden Bollocks, Gavin, I say that he was the golden child. He literally was, wasn't he? Because he was gold coming out to play. He was... But I don't think any of us minded that, because it was like his makeup, his costume to go out and play.
Turn up and perform every weekend.
I knew him because I played with his dad, Alan, at my stag, who was a prop.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, a roofer from Pincoid, and a lovely bloke. And Audrey, his mother. So, obviously, Gav growing up, I had a little bit to do with, but yeah, I absolutely loved him. Everything about him, you shouldn't have favourites, should you? No. You end up, you can speak now having one or two favourites, and everybody loved Gav because he's got a great rugby brain. Yeah. We used to do reviews, so I brought in, say, a review of the game, and back then he would have little laptops with the game on, and their individual moments and team moments, and it'd be a sheet of A4, and he'd be like, things you did well, things you need to do better, things the team did well, things the team need to do better. And some of the boys would come in and write a couple of sentences, Gav, it'd be like War and Peace. Oh, and he'd go at them, I did this, I did that, maybe should have done that, but it'd be lines and lines. Sometimes an extra sheet of paper I've kept some of them, because they are absolute gold, But, boy, you could perform.
I think what a lot of people forgot as well is how tough he was.
Yeah.
So, you like I say, the tan and everything else, but you don't, see some of the things he did and how tough he actually was.
Technically a great tackler. Kick the ball obviously a mile out of hand off the ground. Great passer of the ball, but how he was able to control himself, like we would say when the bombs are going off, right up in, and pick a hole, pick a pass. He was deceptively fast because of his long stride. He was able to have a good fend and get through, but his vision and that were fantastic. I loved him, and just the honesty of him, really different. So he would have been ahead of everybody in terms of bringing snacks, his diet. He'd have his own masseur that he'd pay for.
So pure professional, probably.
100%. He'd always look immaculate. Always. I loved that about him. He'd look immaculate. So he was really... It became a little bit of his downfall. You had to be 100% right to play and train. Everything had to be perfect. Well, no rugby player, if they're honest, would ever be playing or training 100%. But you're right, tough. And don't get me wrong, all those players, you don't get to that level and play that standard for that long without being tough. And I include Shane and those guys, and that really tough.
Hi guys, hope you're enjoying this month's content. If you're in the market currently for a commercial vehicle, then please head over to our website at david-spear.com or pop over to our showroom in Tredegar. With over 30 years experience and unbeatable customer service, you'd save pounds with us. Thanks for watching. I'll let you get back to the video.
You spent 8 years at the Ospreys. 8 years?
9
years, sorry, at the Ospreys. How did that come to an end? Was it a number of things, or?
Yeah, I think it was a number of things. I think, you're there a long time. I became head coach in 2008 when Lynn left. We went on to win another 2 titles. So 5 titles, 9 years. That's a lot of words, Elliot, in a changing room. It's a lot of video sessions. I can understand. But there were tough financial times for the regions then as well. I'd become a high earner. But we were top of the league, We were riding high, but I think I had to go, I would still be there now. I would literally be sweeping the changing rooms. Cut me in half, my blood would be black. And since going into TV, I've had to be careful of that.
Yeah,
I get accused of bias one way and bias the other. You know, I can't win.
You won't win, no.
And after we're doing this podcast, and in a couple of days' time, I'm commentating on Ospreys Scarlet. So I'll have to face all that the weekend again. But yeah, I think looking back, I didn't want to go, but I had to go.
Yeah.
And it was time for the next chapter, really. But that, ironically, kicked me into TV. So as soon as I left, the BBC rang up. And within a week or two, I was on.
Was that an exciting time as well then, knowing that you've got something new to kind of kick on into, or was it quite
I didn't want to do... I've always, back then, Scrum 5 was a national institution. To be asked to go on it. Again, I'm back to that... Am I sat right as being a professional coach? Was I worthy of being coach of Scott Gibbs and Shane and all them? And I had to overcome that and gain that confidence in their respect. It was the same on TV. They're asking me, to be on TV. Jiffy, it's Jiffy's domain. Eddie Butler, and they put me first of all in the truck, the man in the truck. So I was doing a little bit, 30 seconds pre-match, 1 minute at half time. I look back at some of those now, and I was getting my words. I was trying to fill as many words in that 1 minute at half time as I could, and clips. And producers were saying, slow down, let it breathe. And of course, I learned that over time. But I was trying to prove myself and earn the respect, I suppose, of not just Jiff and people like that, but of the nation. And I probably get more accolades for my TV now when I go to clubs or meet people than I do for my coaching. Which is really nice. They say, we love your analysis. We never knew that. You teach us this. And that's really, really nice. I get the negatives as well. Like, who do you think you are? And that's a load of rubbish. But it doesn't matter. I loved working on the TV. And at the time, I was bitter. I was top of my game. So what was it, 2012? I would have been 42, 5 trophies. I'm thinking... I'd coached Wales in 2009, and I was thinking, I need to be a head coach of Wales. And I'm probably thinking at the time, why aren't I coaching Wales? Why aren't I coaching? So that was a tough time, and I had a load of nice offers come in, but it took me a while to choose, and I eventually picked Bristol.
Why Bristol?
Good question.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's a good question because I think back now, what was I thinking? Because I had an opportunity to go to places like Leicester Tigers, some other Welsh regions, to France, Coca-Cola in Japan. And I think to myself, I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but I was thinking to myself, well, they were a second division team, but my God, imagine going to work for Coca-Cola. What I think. But I had a young family, so I was thinking all of that. So if you think back to what we've talked about, Coleg Cigar, Hartbury College, Ospreys, they all were start points. They were all starting a journey together. I looked at Bristol. They were in the championship. They were a sleeping giant. They had a big backer, potentially. I thought, this is a project. And Andy Robinson was there. I'd like to work with Robbo. And ironically, Dean Ryan had been asking me to go and coach Worcester, who were to be the rivals in the championship, to go up. It took us 3 years to get into the Premiership, but because of a very silly playoff system. But we got there in the end, so that was another box tick, if you like.
And a rewarding one at that as well, probably.
Yeah, it was challenging because I commuted a bit, and you might think, it's only Bristol, but it's not easy, the traffic, is it, through Newport, and that's, we were leaving stupid early and coming back stupid late, or staying up a couple of nights. It wasn't great. I enjoyed it, but if I had my time again, I would do it differently. I probably would have tried and moved up there from lock stock from the start.
Yeah. But obviously enjoyed your time at Bristol, then moved back into analyst.
Well, Robbo was really good. He allowed me to do, as long as it didn't interfere with our games in Bristol, I could still go back and do stuff on TV, on days off. Yeah. Which I did. So I kept into the Welsh game. And then again, some personal things hit. My son had a tumour, which sort of changed my outlook a little bit. I wasn't in love with coaching as much. I felt like the day-to-day drain of putting cones down, out in the wet, coaching similar things, hearing my voice all the time. So I took a year off, and that year now has become 7 years.
Wow.
6, 7 years. Yeah, had great offers again, but entered into the business world now, and
how's that going?
good.
So I know we spent quite a lot of time with you actually in a number of events. But how's the new venture going? Or not so new anymore?
No, it's evolving. So Great Days Golf has been going 4 years now. Really good, events based. Although, that's developed into a golf business network, of which David Spear Commercial Vehicles is a huge part of and a big supporter of us. I'm driving around in a lovely custom van, which is great. But that's been awesome in bringing people together, bringing golfers and corporates together and companies. Excited about next year because we've got a premium partner network, 6 golf days that we're really excited about. So that's going well. We're developing an inclusive academy for disadvantaged and disabled kids.
Wow.
One of our directors, Mike Jones, is an amputee golfer. That's great. And we've got a scoring system. So that's growing arms and legs. And then all the while in April, we launched Great Days Golf Travel. So we went into the travel world.
Extremely busy.
Yeah, but I'm always busy and I like it. I've got an interest in an outdoor adventure company in St. David's as well. And I keep in my commentary and speaking or event hosting business going as well. So yeah, it's a busy time, but I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Meeting new people. I don't have the worry of 15 blokes crossing the white line and doing it for me when I can't do anything about it. It's on me. Everything's on me.
Yeah.
And that's probably
Different
the way I like it. Yeah.
So how why golf? Why was this? I know obviously you're a keen sports person. We talked about cricket. We talked about rugby, football. How long have you played golf, and how did you start this company based around golf?
Good question. I've always been interested in golf, all sports, but golf I picked up early when my dad would play on a Saturday. I'd go down with him. He bought me a forward and a pitching wedge and a putter. He was left-handed, see, so, or is, I should say. He's left-handed, so I couldn't really borrow his clubs and go at the back, so he bought me those. Although I did used to use his chip. I could probably chip and putt left-handed now, because as a kid I was just using his little clubs. And I'd go along with him and I'd play a couple of holes. He'd let me, play the odd hole. And I just played it as a youngster. But when you get into professional work or coaching, you don't have enough time to do it because golf takes 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
So when I finished coaching, I thought, right, I want to get into this golf. And I worked hard at it and started to have a decent handicap, joined a club. And then I was looking for another venture, really. I thought, I'm not going to go back to coaching, I thought. So I'm looking for another venture. And then this company fell on my lap. I pulled a mate in, Simon Pridham, who's now the co-founder of Great Days Golf. We revamped the brand, invited Mike Jones onto the board, invited Jiffy, Jonathan Davis as a non-exec on. And it was born, and it just after COVID, remember when you could only have 30 people in one space? That was our first event.
Wow.
And it worked. So we had a recipe and we grew it. Now we employ Rhiannon, Rob, Rich as head of travel, myself, Simon. So it's starting to grow. And I'm playing more business golf. I'm pretty serious about it. I used to play a lot of squash and cricket, but that's too energetic, Elliot. That is just about managing to get up in the morning.
Tough on the knees as well.
Yeah, it is. So I'm loving it. I got down to a 1 handicap last summer, back up to 3. But my aim now is to play next year in some senior events when I hit 55.
Oh, brilliant. Aspirations for the future then with Great Days Golf. I know there's a few exciting events coming up. Do you want to give us a rundown on that?
Yeah, events-wise, we're loving what we got, our portfolio. We are running the World Professional Snooker Players event for the 2nd year next year, and we'll be doing it for the next 3 years. We'd love to do more with some of the big governing bodies, the football, the darts we're in chats with, and then branching across the border, I think, is big for that. But the travel is the exciting thing for us. We've got a couple of bespoke trips that we staff. Come and watch the Masters in Spain, in Marbella. We've got a Hollywood Bowl, which is like a Ryder Cup thing with myself and Rod Woodward. We're going to La Manga in January. So we'd like more people to come on board with us on that. They can book their holidays through us, of course, but to come on those trips, grow those, I think. And then eventually, just have a base maybe in Europe where we can just welcome people to golf destinations would be fantastic.
Wow, very exciting indeed.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So well, sorry to go back to rugby again,
Sorry.
but obviously managing a lot of these personalities we talked about earlier on, how do you think that's kind of set you up for future business ventures like the one you're in now? I mean, kind of managing these big personalities at the Ospreys and other clubs.
Yeah.
Has that helped you in future life, do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are very similar between professional sport and business. You can learn a lot from professional sport. I think it's a lot more in your face. By that I mean, you know, when you play professional sport or coach and involved with athletes like that, you're very direct. You're very honest. You speak as you find, and they back to you. And I found that in business, out in Civvy Street, if you like, then a lot of people don't like that. You know, but you get it. But you can't afford not to be in professional sport. You're selecting people, you're dropping people, contracts, livelihoods are on the line, and you can learn a lot from that. And the same in team building and managing personalities. You've got to be upfront and honest with people. You've got to challenge them, but you've got to give them feedback. You've got to grow them. And that's something we're trying to do at Great Days Golf, you know, and as we grow our staff, I think you can always learn from managing difficult personalities, like somebody like Jerry Collins, you know, who was an interesting character, and how you use people from similar cultures like Philo Tiatia to help you manage him, you know, because you don't know too much about his Samoan or New Zealand heritage. You use that. Something like a Dan Bigger, a real strong warrior, like driven winner. Never forget him coming in, because we knew of Daniel as a 15, 16-year-old, and he came in one game on a Friday to the coaching room. We'd done at Liberty Stadium and knocked the door. I think it was myself, Mike Cuddy, and Lenny said, Mr. Holley, Mr. Jones, Mr. Cuddy, you might have heard I've been approached by 2 London clubs and colleges in London for scholarships. One's with the Harlequins Club, one's with the Saracens Club. I just came to tell you face to face, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to be the next Ospreys 10, and I'm going to play for Wales. Wow. And he shook our hands out, you know, 16-year-old Dan Bigger, you know, so you knew what you were going to have. Yeah, at 18, he's coming in, bossing your Collins, Tias, Adam Jones, Duncan Jones around the field. So you knew he was going to. Yeah. Alan Wynne the same. You know, Alan Wynne at 18, I remember Lynn coming over and saying, he can't jump very well at the moment, but he's going to be a British Lion. And Lynn knew straight away, bang. And how right he was, you know. And again, interesting character, Alan Wynne, driven, sprint around like a little kid in training, you know. Every drill you do, he'd be first there, you know. He'd be in your face, he'd be asking questions, he wouldn't be satisfied, but set huge standards. And so you set examples, you know, use those as examples of what you want your role models to be. Justin Tipurick's another one. But again, utilise the people that you've got. I could turn around to people in rugby clubs and say, yeah, coach Justin Tipurick for 7-8 years, you know, he's a brilliant player. I never coached him, really. Philo Tiatia, Marty Holler, Steve Tandy, Jonathan and Ryan, they all coached him. You know, little nuances here and there. They brought him through, brought him out of his shell. But he was always a talent that you just needed to let go. You know, I'll never forget Andrew Hall coming in and said, we were playing in an Anglo-Welsh game in Bath. And he said in the management meeting, who are you picking this week, Sean? I said, well, we like this boy Tipurick. You know, he was in the academy. And to be fair to Justin, he wasn't probably in the best shape of his life then, you know. He'll never play for the Ospreys as long as I got all in my ass, he said. And if you pick him, he said, I'll eat 4 raw eggs in this meeting next week. So we picked him.
Did he eat the eggs?
But he had Jerry Collins at 6 and Philo Tiatia at 8, you know.
Yeah.
And we beat Bath, and he scored a try, one man of the match. Yeah. Following Monday, I was there, but fair play, he had them 4 raw eggs. Yeah. So yeah, no, you do have definite crossovers, and I'll talk to businesses about that, and then all the things that you would expect from running a good business are in professional sport. You know, leadership teams, leader-full teams. You know, a set of captains and mentors that you work together. You know, you've got a hierarchy, yes, but you've got a depth chart, and then you work to move people out and grow people through. Preparation, you know, planning, tactics, not necessarily looking at your competitors. You know, you don't want to be keeping an eye on them. You want to worry about what you're doing, you know, and doing that to the best of your ability, tracking, looking ahead, you know, selection of the right people, all the triggers that you need, you know, timings, you know, how long are your meetings? You know, how long you got them in an analysis room? How long is your team meetings, your management meetings? You know, keep it short, sharp, to the point, you know, move on. So lots of things you can learn. It's been really interesting crossing over into business and talking to other businesses about that. So
I suppose it's all these little things that a lot of people don't think about when making a quick judgment and why they're not winning, or you know, why is it going wrong in this area. So do you think rugby, sorry, going back to that again, do you think they're missing some of these characters and some of these people you say that have these personalities maybe?
I don't think you're allowed to anymore, really, are you?
No,
you know,
I
it's
think people are scared.
sort of clinical, and maybe society's different now.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure my coaching behaviours now some of them wouldn't be as acceptable. So maybe my language, my vernacular, my methods would have to be different. Different times, different eras. You know, society's a different place now. But yes, certainly, I don't think you'd see too many sides who would have a creative beer in the change room after professional sides just to celebrate a win. Well, we didn't see anything wrong with that. You know, and you've got to live life a little bit as well, particularly when they're young men. Now, we used to have a Christmas party, always fancy dress, and I would go along in hopefully thinking that my presence might temper the boys, because they wouldn't go out much, and if they do, you know, they'd have to go big, wouldn't they? Because they don't go out there. A Christmas party just before the derbies was always an issue. I remember I went dressed as Ozzy the Osprey once, the mascot, and Hugh Bennett run in dressed as, what was he dressed as? I don't know, Batman or something. He came and tackled me in the bar, broke a rib, you know, and I'm in this big Ozzy the Osprey suit. Over I went, ooh, got me. You forget these guys, see, they're big, powerful guys.
And they probably forget themselves as well.
Oh, he had a few bits, just tackled me, broke a rib. I couldn't move for months. You know, if you ever do a rib, I never went to a Christmas party after that. And I never dressed up as Ozzy the Osprey after.
No, exactly. So I suppose, do you miss some of those times as well, though? And you still you get to do a lot of those things now, but those old days and things where you think of the Christmas parties and the socials, and
I miss the camaraderie, you know, the changing room banter, celebrating big wins, you know, in the change room is nothing like it.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate, we had such a tight bond through those times, you know, that we created something called MFL. We researched the Osprey's bird, the Osprey bird, and what we found that when it mates for life. So mates for life. Mates for life. You think about when you knock heads, you work, you're in the public eye, and you win and lose big things, and you become mates for life. So MFL became a thing, and we created a silver belt buckle, Filo Tia Tia, and I designed it. We had it made from a local jewelers, and that became the players' player of the day in the changing room. It was a powerful thing. They all wanted one. They would select it, win, lose, or draw in the changing room, you know. Who's your players' player of the day? Gavin Henson. Yours, Marty Holler. Yours, Shane Williams. Right? And they presented then, and they put it on their belt there, and then because they knew what it meant. My fellow teammates had given me this, and they'd wear it with pride, you know. And then on my 250th game, I'll never forget it, in Rodney Parade, actually, after the Dragons game, they did it. I said, right, come on, let's get on the bus. Let's do it quick. And they give it to me. Wow. I wasn't meant to, you know, no coach was meant to have it. It was for players. But they give it to me, and I cried like a baby. I did.
Yeah.
And that bond is still there. So we do Q&As now, and TV and whatever, events. And I'm mentoring. I am doing some mentoring work for the Welsh Rugby Union for five players that I coach. They're coaching now. James Hook, Bradley Davis, Andrew Bishop, Paul James, Richie Pugh. So we're still tight in that way. And there's still that bond there, and it's really good. But that's what sport and rugby can bring you.
And do they come to you now asking advice? Is it funny because it comes around in a
little bit,
full circle? Or?
A little bit. I'm really close to Shane now. We do lots of stuff together for Velindre Cancer Centre, treks and rides. You know, the boy, they're all a bit older now. I think the older they get, even though I'm getting older, the gap is probably smaller. And Dan Bigger is working with Great Days Golf. He's now coming to the end and entering in very close to Daniel still, and a lot of them. And we've just had an Ospreys reunion where you almost pick up like you left off, without that, are you picking me this week? Or you didn't play well this week, without that. So it's quite a nice thing. I think I'm lucky and fortunate to have done it for that long, to have made those alliances, and then I'm not doing it anymore.
No, exactly. Close that one off. So, and what's next for, we'll just tie things up. What's next for Sean? So I know we mentioned a couple of things with Great
knee
Days,
operation, probably.
A knee op, yeah. A knee op as well.
No, I want to grow Great Days Golf. I want to continue building partnerships with good people. That's important to me. And I want to travel a little bit. I want to see a bit of the world. I want to play golf around the world with Great Days Golf and with good people. So my kids are older, so looking forward to seeing what the future holds for them. Quite imminently, I'll be going to Spain, Portugal with Great Days Golf the early part of next year, but then I'll be going on the Lions Tour with Shane and Ian McGeechan with a travel company called Venator, taking a group of Welsh supporters out there. And then I'll be trekking Patagonia for Velindre Cancer Centre with Shane in November. 10-year, 160-year anniversary from our Welsh settlers going out there. So a busy 2025.
Busy 2025 indeed. Well, thanks very much for coming on, Sean.
Thanks for having me,
Absolute pleasure. So thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Please like and subscribe for some more upcoming content.